Okay, what's up, my little firecrackers? I'm back. You've seen the title. This is What If Deku Wasn't Bullied? Now, if you watched the previous upload, like, what if I made an update or whatever I called it? Um, I said I was going to catch up before I started this series, and I said it was going to be a one-shot. I've decided against that because I made a few changes to how I wanted it. Because at first I was going to do what if Deku went back in time, or like Pro Hero Deku, after he becomes number one, goes back in time and trains himself. And I'm like, I lost that idea. And then I was watching other what ifs, and I thought, well, what if Deku just wasn't bullied? You know, like, what if he just wasn't bullied, you know? Like, what would happen if he actually had support and all that? This is also going to have Izuku actually having, actually using his analysis that we've seen him have, like at the beginning with his quirk analysis stuff, that just dropped out of out of the series out of nowhere. That's gonna have a bit more of that in it, and so yeah. But from now on, any new series I start will be using my new phone instead of my old phone, like all my other previous videos were. But that doesn't matter. Anyway, the image on screen right now is going to be his first iteration of the hero costume, because he's going to be able to put a lot more time and effort into it. He's going to actually train. He's going to know a lot of stuff. But let's just get into the story. So, as we all know, Izuku was born just normally. Everything goes up to canon except for when he hits 4 years old and finds out he's quirkless. Bakugo doesn't ridicule him or, any of that stuff. However, other students attempt to do so, in which one glare from Bakugo and they fuck up and don't talk again. Because they're afraid of Bakugo. So Bakugo and Deku are a lot closer in this. In fact, it is Bakugo who gives him the name Deku because he thinks it sounds like Dekuru. And that inside joke kind of a thing only happens more and more often when they get cell phones. And he starts trying to type in Dekuru, but it just comes out as Deku. So it's just like an inside joke between the two. Even at first, he called him Dekuru, but then after they got cell phones and all that, and that whole thing happens, it just became an inside joke, and he started calling him Deku instead. However, and because of this, him and Bakugo go to the same gym together every day after school. And the only difference between them is, while Bakugo is more about brute strength, Deku is a lot more flexible. And Bakugo will tease him in a joking manner, like friends do, to Deku when he actually does like yoga and stuff to make himself more flexible, like actually stretches all of his muscles out to become limber and stuff before and after the exercises. So Deku is a lot more flexible and limber than Bakugo is. And that's just the basic premise of this. So they're a lot closer together. They're like brothers, and Deku cools out his toxic personality. He still wants to be the best and still wants to be stronger than everyone else, but it's already clear that Bakugo sees Deku as a rival because of his flexibility and quick thinking and analysis. Easily nets him victories against Bakugo. The Bakugo is won just as much through pure strength whenever they spar. And when they spar without quirks, his losing streak, well, he hasn't even won once. His losing streak is it's just that. It's a losing streak. And it doesn't seem to have an end in sight. However, when quirks are allowed, although Bakugo holds back the intensity of his quirk not to, hurt Izuku to the point where he needs to go to the hospital or something, he is a lot, he does win almost every time. So then we get to the day of the sludge incident. Deku actually, here's the sludge villain coming from behind him and just starts trying to run, but it's, not enough. He screams as the, sludge villain covers him. However, he bought enough time for All Might to get there and defeat the villain without falling unconscious. So this leads to our first little change here. And a small change. So it would go basically the same, except he would ask All Might if he could be a hero without a quirk. Just right there in that area under the bridge. And All Might would just say, it's highly unlikely. It's like, you're not good at talking to people, are you, All Might? No, I'm not. Not when it's this serious. Yeah, that much is clear. So we're just gonna stand here staring at each other? Or are you gonna, still try to come up with another answer? Look, kid, it's not impossible. You're extremely fit. It's clear that you're good enough at dodging to have avoided the villain in the time it took me to get here. So, if you were to ask me if you could, I'd say it's possible, but unlikely. But I'd also ask you not to do it, because it's an extremely rough job, and I'm getting on in years, I can't be a hero forever, and I know once I retire, crime rate, it's gonna go up, right? Yeah, I understand that, and then, it's gonna get a lot more dangerous to be a hero. I don't care about that. I just want to help people. I'm just asking you if you think I could pass a test to get into a hero course. That's all I'm asking you. I'm not asking you if it's dangerous. I know it's dangerous. I don't care. I just want to help people. And then something clicks in All Might's mind. Something he had long forgotten since his injury. What it truly meant to be a hero. Why it is he himself got One for All in the first place. Because he didn't care how dangerous it was. He wanted to help people. But then he noticed his time limit was coming up and he couldn't finish this conversation right now. He says, well, kid, you make... That's a good speech. Well, you remind me of younger me, actually. So yes, I do think you can be a hero, even if you don't have a quirk. Other people maybe not. They don't have the same drive. But with a drive like yours, yes, I do think so. But I have to go, gotta put this villain in prison, He says as he taps the bottles that are in his pockets before jumping away. However, in doing so, with all might strength, not really knowing it, he actually released that tapping, actually loosened the bottles from his short pockets, which caused them to fall. In which will lead us to the second sledge incident. Izuku will actually see them falling as he jumps away. He's like, God damn it. And then he goes to see where they is because he knows there's going to be heroes there. He wants to, analyze them, and stuff like that. So he goes there, right? It's the instant he sees Death Arms, Kamui Woods. It's, Backdraft, Mount Lady. So what ends up happening is he says to Death Arms, because he's noticed this from the fight prior, he said, Death Arms, I think you should, try it and aim for his eyes and or mouth. Those are the only physical parts of his body. Then someone's like, kid, what are you doing? I know what I'm doing. If you know what you're doing, just go up and do it. Just try what I said. Just try it once. See how it works. He then goes over to Backdraft pretty quickly. All Might's there and watching everything Izuku is doing, and he sees Izuku watching the entire thing, surveying the entire thing, and goes to Backdraft and points out spots in the fire that are only causing more fires. There's like the key source to all of it, and points them out to Backdraft. Backdraft is like, kid, I know what I'm doing. He still points them out again. He's like, okay, you're right. And Backdraft goes and pushes them out. And while, and that's as Death Arms lands the blow to the man's eyes, causing him to come off of Bakugo. Well, not Bakugo, it's actually just some random kid. Bakugo's already at his house, waiting for Deku to come back. So basically what Deku's doing is he's leading all of the heroes to, telling them how they can use their quirks effectively against this villain. Then he goes to Kamui Woods. Again, no one else is noticing him do this because they're just watching the heroes themselves, as well as the sludge villain. He goes to Kamui Woods and says, split him up using your wood and just don't let him come back together. Don't let him do that. And you'll be fine. And then Death Arms could knock him out by punching the parts of him that are physical. So that's what Kamui Woods does. He doesn't even say anything. He just does it to see if it'll work. Because he, unlike everyone else there, he's actually noticed him talking to the other pro heroes, and what he's telling them actually ends up working. Because the fires are already out, and the kid has already been rescued. So what he does is he uses a new move based off of what he just said that he calls Lacquered Whip. And it's just a bunch of, these root-like branches that just start whipping him and cutting him up. and splitting him into different parts so fast that he can't get back together. And All Might is seeing all of this, and he's like, yeah, that kid, he's my new successor, because that's just amazing analytical skills. He took like one long look at that situation, and he instructed every pro hero there on what to do in order to use their quirks properly, even though at first glance their quirks weren't meant to deal with this situation. They were not good enough to deal with that situation. So not only is he showing that he knows what other pro heroes do, he's showing leadership skills, he's also showing great analytical skills, and he's already shown a heroic heart by their conversation earlier. He's shown everything that All Might would want in a successor. Plus, with his build, he's already ready for One For All. His body is already prepared for One For All. And because this Deku isn't a little crybaby. He's never been bullied in his entire life. He may only have one friend, but he's never been bullied in his entire life. Not once. I'd also like you to keep in mind that this is his last year of high school, and UA is a university. Because it just makes more sense that way. However, he is in a class that prepares you, because that's what high schools do, right? They prepare you for college, so they have similar courses to the ones you'll see in college, just at a lesser degree. So this high school does have some, semi-hero courses, let's call it, but they're basically hero courses to a lesser degree. You're not going to get, your provisional license, but you learn basics. Basically, it's like watching videos about heroes and then analyzing them to see what they did right and what they did wrong. You see what I'm saying? So, without the help of All Might at all, they capture the villain. Mountain Lady couldn't really do much. Again, he didn't see how Mountain Lady can do anything. Because without her giant form, she's not that strong. But when Mountain Lady came down, he actually told her that maybe she should work on her physical strength in her in her normal height, so that when she's in, one, she doesn't need to be in her giant form in order to help people, and two, so that when she's in her giant form, she's even stronger than she is now. And Mountain Lady would actually see the benefit in doing that, but mostly thinking about how it can make her more famous, because she hasn't gone through that change of being a hero just to be a hero. So, we move on to the 10 months of training, in which we will see Deku get One For All right off the bat, and he has the 10 months of training just to, learn about One For All. He's still doing his normal training, just to a lesser degree, because he needs, more time to train with his new quirk. He doesn't tell Bakugo because he knows the importance of, the secrecy of One For All. He doesn't even have to talk to All Might about not telling people. He knows not to tell people. Because he's already analyzed all of this in his head. He knows what would happen if they're like, oh, there's a quirk that can be passed on to the others, and it's All Might's. That makes him a target, because then, every villain ever is going to want it. Hell, even All For One wanted it. he could just never get it. Anyway, the fact of the matter is, by the end of these 10 months, while Izuku will be able to use comfortably up to 75%, no, hear me out here, he'll be comfortably be able to use up to 75% without hurting himself and injuring himself in any way. If he were to use more than that, the pain would slowly escalate from just a minor bruise to breaking his arm. But he can only comfortably control up to 25%. He could push it up to 75, but at that point he'd just be bouncing around all the place without any semblance of control. Unlike, let's say speed, for example. If he were to try to run at 75%, his mind still wouldn't be able to comprehend everything going on, and he'd just run way past what he needed to, where he meant to be. So what would end up happening is, once he can comfortably control that amount, like, everything would start to slow down as he was running, because due to his increase in speed. So that's what I mean by comfortably control. He can only comfortably control up to 25%. And which means, like, when he's running, his mind is also going at the speed that he is running. So everything's kind of slowing down a bit. You see what I'm saying? You all understand. If you don't, I'm sure you'll blast me in the comments. But he can only comfortably control up to 25%. He does not yet have Black Whip or anything else. And I will say this, he will be getting all the quirks within One for All, except for the second user, unless it comes out that, unless we find out what the second user's quirk is before this what if ends. But until then, this ain't over yet. No, I bet you thought. And some of you even looked at the progress bar to see how long the video had left. Anyway, so what would end up happening is, while he's cleaning the beach, which is a lot more of his workout now than before, because they still need an area. He still had to clean out an area of the beach, and it basically just made a little arena that no one else knew about, in which they could do their training with One for All. Well, plus it worked as some extra strength training, which helped him a little bit more. But, after, he understands all of that, even after Gran Torino came in and, helped out with the training a bit, so that Izuku could understand that he has to force One for All throughout his entire body at a comfortable level, able to lessen the amount of One for All he's using so he doesn't hurt himself, which he did do and had to go to recovery gold that one time. But yeah, he understands all of this a lot sooner because he's actually trained. He wasn't mentally and physically abused by his classmates. So, he doesn't have that social anxiety like he did before. He doesn't think bad about himself. And the only reason he asked All Might if he could be a hero without a quirk is because he wanted reassurance from his idol, which he got a ton of after explaining, everything. More than he thought he would. He thought All Might would just be like, yeah, sorry. But All Might's like, yeah, no, actually, you reminded me of myself. It's a confidence booster if I ever saw one. But yeah. And Izuku, while not being able to beat Gran Torino, because Gran Torino is just so much faster than him, than he's able to control, he would actually set a plan to like defeat Gran Torino, but Gran Torino, in all of his years, would have seen some stuff like he's come up with, and fallen for it and barely survived thanks to the help of other pro heroes. So he wouldn't fall for it this time, and netting him the win, which he'd be impressed and congratulate Toshinori on finding such a worthy successor, because this kid is just all of the good things that could come out of a hero. He's intelligent and understanding, and he knows how to set up traps in the middle of a fight. He's an analyst that works in a fight, that can analyze things quickly even when the pressure is on. So Gran Torino really likes Midoriya. So after that's all done, and it's basically just your training is yours now. So he's like, that all happened in 9 months. So he's like, it's like this next month your training is yours to just increase your limit. I can't really help you any more than I already have, because you're already using One for All differently than I am. Whereas All Might uses it with just pure brute force, Izuku has been just maneuvering himself mid-air, which All Might has never really thought of before. He only did it in canon, the only time you actually see him doing it is when he blasts himself to the roof. So I don't think All Might's actually redirected himself mid-air before, and that didn't happen here, so he just never did it. So, Izuku has kept himself in the air just using the stockpiling power of One for All. So he's already using it extremely differently than All Might. He's making it versatile rather than just pure power. So there's not much All Might can teach him, since his way of fighting is more flexible and hitting pinpoint weaknesses on the body rather than just all out pummeling someone. Their fighting styles are way too different for All Might to continue teaching him anything. So he just tells Izuku to, do it himself. This next month of training, I can't teach you anything anymore. Young Midoriya, I cannot teach you anything else because your fighting style would be too different. Your fighting style is too different than my own. If I were to teach you anything, I'd just give you bad habits. So, this next month, before UA entrance exams begin for you, I believe you should... Let me clear my throat, sorry. I think you should do your own training for the next month. Izuku's like, yeah, I understand. Yeah, that makes sense. Am I ever going to see you again, though? He's like, oh, on TV. He just walks away. He's like, yeah, that's not cool. That's not an answer. Whatever. And Izuku decides to just finish cleaning the beach, which only took him half a month. And the first person... and someone happens to be walking by once the beach is mostly clean. Someone happens to be walking by and actually comes down to see him. And remember, Deku is built like an athlete. He's almost 6 foot. Almost 6 foot. He's my height, 5'11"-ish to 6 foot, in between. So, this girl with, also with dark green hair, hair and strangely sharp teeth. He goes down and talks to him, and they actually get to be good friends, and they start, she tells him, maybe you should, if you're going to UA, maybe you should, learn some martial arts. And he's like, yeah. He's like, you know what, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Like jujitsu, kickboxing, stuff like that. Yeah, that would actually really help me. So, he's like, yeah, I'll think about it. And to which she responds, well, maybe you should, come with me to my, mixed martial arts school. Or classes, because I'm not gonna lie, she just wants him to come with her. Not for that reason, but for just why not? Just clear eye candy. She wants him to train with her because she just has this feeling about him. She likes him, Not that he notices. She playfully teases and flirts with him, but Izuku's too dense to notice that that's what she's doing. She just thinks she's doing the same that Bakugo does, but on a higher degree, a higher scale. He doesn't recognize that she's basically crushing on him. He just doesn't notice. So, yeah. So if you don't know who this is Setsuna Tokage, and they actually go to a mixed martial arts school, which teaches mixed martial arts, but they also teach many other martial arts, which is why it's called mixed martial arts. But, mixed martial arts is a combination of all martial arts. Well, not all, at least I don't think all, but a bunch of different martial arts. But there's also just classes dedicated to one specific martial art, which those classes are more about proficiency in a specific martial art than just knowing basically a bunch of different martial arts. So, yeah. Anyway, this is where I'm going to end this episode. Oh, thank God, I'm still recording. But this is where I'm going to end this episode. This part of What If Deku Wasn't Bullied. And I'm probably just going to look up a bunch of different martial arts. And then, tell you which ones he learns and which ones he's more proficient at. Anyway, yeah. This has been Blazing with S. Blazing away.